everyone. We're just going to, I think, get straight to it. So if you're ready, great. It's actually a real honor to open up this session with you today, which was organized by Steph Robbie, who can't be here today. And she's done a bunch of the coordinating and facilitating with Chris and Tia, who I hope are going to come online imminently. Steph and I, and Amaka actually, have been had the privilege of being involved in and being led by Seventh Generation Foundation for Indigenous Peoples, Fund for Indigenous Peoples, over the last 2 years on a program called Gourds of Wisdom. So what we hope through this invitation and this moment, oh, here we are, hi, is that this is the beginning of a journey that you are now coming on with us, where you get to deepen your understanding of many of the concepts that you would have heard today around regenerative economics and being in right relationship, and put them in the frame of radical redistribution, but from the perspective of Indigenous peoples' struggle for self-determination. And truly, I don't have to say much more because Chris and Tia are going to take you through that legacy and in the ways that they wish to. And it's 6:15 in the morning for them, so give them all your love and appreciation through the airwaves. Chris and Tia, can you hear me? You're good to go. Are you good? Maybe they can't hear me. Chris, you're good to go if you can hear me. They'll get a message in a minute. Should I tell you more about something else? Maybe someone in the AV room can message them.
Should we get started, or it's a little garbled on our side, so we're not sure if you opened it up already?
Yes, I did.
Okay, Chris.
Yes, go for it.
Chris, you're on mute.
Good morning. My name is Chris Peters. First of all, I'd like to give thanks to the Wiyot people, the Wiyot Nation, if you will, whose homelands where Seventh Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples is located. Deepest respect for the traditional people who have lived with and who have talked with the spirits of this place for many, many years, who have performed earth healing and earth renewing ceremonies and who are directly responsible for the tempo, the rhythm, and the very pulse of this place. A feeling that has touched our souls and a feeling that we have come to appreciate. I offer thanks to the ancestors of this place and for allowing me to be here to speak with this important meeting of special leaders that are exploring the next foundations in philanthropy. Land acknowledgement is a statement that is catching on in the United States. Almost every Indian organization, almost every non-Native organization is doing land acknowledgements. That it recognizes the enduring relationship that exists between Indigenous peoples and their traditional territory. A relationship that encompasses the sacred and all that is alive, all of our relations, if you will, and have shared this place for many, many years. During this time, Native ancestors have abided by established protocols, ceremonies that have honored and respected a common mother, Mother Earth. It teaches us respect, reciprocity, and reverence for our practice of living. There's some noise in the background.
We can hear you okay.
Okay. Well, good morning. My name is Chris Peters. I am very honored to be a presenter today and speak with this group of philanthropic leaders at this conference, the Nick Foundation. We will discuss earth healing and earth renewal from an Indigenous perspective. In the next hour, we will share with you a video entitled Time of Prophecy, walking into the prayers of our ancestors. It will discuss the state of the world, and more specifically, it'll talk about climate change. Climate change is a problem that we all face. The movie In the Time of Prophecy is based on the good thinking of many of our ancestors. It was created by common folks that live in America, Native peoples who are living truly an Indigenous life. The wisdom and knowledge of traditional elders was brought to life in this movie by their own photography, and was taped with small cameras, but the size of a GoPro, and filmed by young people of their tribe. It was done at a very short budget. The video was produced by the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples and the International Academy for Multicultural Cooperation, an organization led by Ms. Audrey Kitagawa, who over the years have become a very close friend of the organization. We first met as we served on the board of the Parliament for the World's Religions. She was the chairperson at the time. Producing the video of this magnitude during a worldwide pandemic proved to be no easy task. The travel restrictions, limited personal contact, and very small budget would have been the demise of many films of this magnitude. However, the personal commitment, the dedication of common folks, of traditional people that wanted the world to hear this message that they bring to you in this movie, that kept the production alive. I am Pulikla and Karuk Indian from Northern California. My people have lived in this place since time began. We are earth healing and earth renewing peoples. We have ceremonies, 10-day ceremonies, a white deerskin dance and a jump dance that is set up to heal and renew the earth on an ongoing basis. We do that every year. The video that we present will examine the fundamental precepts housed within Indigenous worldview for sustainable lifeways, and the role that earth-based healing and renewal philosophy can play in cultivating a renewed society throughout the world. It is our understanding that our primary purpose in life is to heal and renew the earth. We do that. You heal and renew the earth. That's our primary purpose. We were put here for no other reason. And throughout our history, we have done a pretty damn good job and have been quite effective at sustaining the natural ecosystem and renewing the spirit of the earth. As Indigenous peoples, as Native peoples, we have abided by traditions and customs and lived peacefully, harmonious lives within the homelands for tens and thousands of years, since Nathi Khan time. Nathi Khan is a concept in Yurok philosophy that talks about a time before time, when there was no time, if you will, when there was no time. We perform ceremonies. I'm also the president of the 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples, the oldest Native American public foundation in the United States and perhaps throughout the world. We have been assisting Native nations rebuild sustainable, healthy, and culturally vibrant communities for over 46 years. I have served the organization now for 34 years and have enjoyed every minute of it. Despite the fact that we have witnessed the ebb and flow of Native philosophy for many years, we've enjoyed the high spots and we've lived through the low points of Native philosophy. Some points through racism, through whatever means necessary, foundations were responding to our message, our need to provide support to Native communities. The Seventh Generation Fund is dedicated to the preservation of traditional ceremonies, the culture, and the philosophical uniqueness of Native peoples and Native nations. We are founded upon the philosophical principle that is widely held by many Native peoples throughout America, that in each of our deliberation, we consider the impact on 7 generations to come. We look forward to 7 generation funds. Everything we do, everything that we think about 7 generations ahead. It teaches us how to be good ancestors. And it's important to be a good ancestor at this stage in society and where it's going. And it is germane for our conversation and the movie that is going to be shown this morning or this afternoon, your time. Tia will share more conversations about 7th Generation Fund later in her presentation. But let us sit back and enjoy the video. The time of prophecy, walking into the ancestors, walking into the prayers of our ancestors. So let's key up the video.
In our language and in prayer, we call her Ishkeman, our grandmother. She is all things to us. She gives us a place to live. She provides us with the water of life, the air we breathe, the warmth to make life grow, and the light that keeps us all warm. And it saddens me to see the kind of desecration that has occurred and is continuing to occur. And it saddens me that after contact, the strangers that came to share this land with us have brought her to this point where our grandchildren are facing a future that is going to challenge them to the very fiber of their being in terms of global warming, in terms of drought, in terms of rain, in terms of rising sea levels, in terms of flooding, in terms of the kind of health situation we are experiencing, a pandemic, and all of the unfortunate things that will intensify the kind of disaster that results from those of us that forget our ways, that forget to live in balance and in harmony and in an honorable, reciprocal, loving relationship with this grandmother, mother that we call Earth. Our population was decimated by many diseases that came to this country. Conflict, wars, primarily disease, from millions upon millions at contact to about 250,000 in 1890, 250,000 people.
Colonization is to go to a place, you have power, you have guns, you have horses, you have an army, and you go somewhere to take the resources. That's really the essence of colonization. It gets disguised as other things, so we want to civilize people, we want to Christianize people, but the true basis of colonization is to take away from people who already have it. And the power disparity, it's immeasurable. And that's what happened here in California and many places in the world.
Through colonization and through the processes of removing Indigenous peoples from their ancestral lands, from their ancestral territories, and putting us on reservations, stripping us of our culture, of our ways that we practice ceremonies, and our traditional land stewardship practices to protect and really care for Mother Earth, has led to a domino effect, which is why now we're seeing these detrimental effects of climate chaos.
The issues of climate change, the issues of resource extraction and exploitation, missing and murdered Indigenous women and young girls and people, they're connected in a lot of different ways. When you look at the overarching structures of colonialism, of colonization, Indigenous people, Indigenous bodies are seen as resources meant for extraction.
Indigenous wisdom has been lost and oppressed through colonization in many ways. And there's a lot of laws that were introduced to prevent people from spreading that knowledge. It was in laws that prevented us from practicing our ways in the sheer numbers of the people that were lost, and also in the stealing of the children. The knowledge can't be transmitted. We don't have our kids. The knowledge can't be transmitted if someone is murdered. It became almost a way where it was just sheer survival. Just to eat, just to be, just to survive the policies that the government brought. You force the people, if they have no land, they can't carry on their traditional ways. If they can't go out and gather their traditional foods or fish in their traditional ways, communal living, that sense of being, the sense of maintaining your values was lost also.
It's the way colonization gets in our bones and in our blood. It's like a toxin. It has us act and do things we all do in ways that destroy rather than nurture and replenish, and that's where we are.
When we give up our self-determination and our sovereignty to other institutions that we had no control in developing, we lose really important knowledge. We stop practicing the ways that that knowledge makes itself known to us. And so even the plants are like that. If you don't treat them the way we're supposed to, with respect and reciprocity, they'll leave us.
There's been layers of change, some really alarming. The medicines, how they hide on us now, that are hard to find now, if at all. And also when we go into the mountains to go berry picking, the berries are more scarce. For me, the witness has been that we've forgotten.
I want to teach my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren how to gather these foods and how to dig these roots and how to use these things. But they're becoming scarce now. We can't hardly find some anymore. There's fences that are going up where the farmers don't want us to go in there to dig our roots.
We have to believe in those people that have been on the land for thousands of years, that know how the water has reacted, that know how the land has reacted. For us, when the hardiest of corn seed cannot grow anymore, that is a sign. To lose the corn seed is losing a relation. To lose water is losing the water spirit. We are a part of the water spirit. When we die, we join the water world. That's where our spirit goes. We have to make an extra effort to maintain the land. the language that comes with it, the language of the water, the language of farming, of maintaining the corn seed.
Our foods are experiencing, like we're experiencing a pandemic, some of our trees are also experiencing sickness. When we appreciate that food and we build that relationship, it gives back to us and we help those trees heal also.
We have to pay more attention to the plants, like when they say the redbud in the dogwood blooms us when the eels were coming, or when the frog sings, the eels are coming. In order for us to know these other shifts, we need to look at the plants, we need to look at what's going on and know the plants and know how the earth is getting, because you're going to have to learn to live with this new way it's going to be.
When we go out to gather, we're making that spiritual connection with the land. When we're grinding our acorns, when we're sorting them, when we're cleaning our fish, all of that's connecting us back to the land and to our environment. That plant feels you, it loves you back, have that relationship. They're communicating with us and talking with us and feeling us. So that's why it's important to give that love and respect to everything around us, because then it will take care of us as well.
I grew up along the Klamath River, and the redwood trees are close relatives. They are a part of our cosmology that are very important to us as Native peoples, as Yurok people. A redwood tree becomes a canoe, an athweach. And a canoe, by and large, is a human being, is a person. It has a heart. It has the elements of a human being. The relationship with the horse, the equine therapy of Native peoples in the plains, we have the same relationship with canoes. That once you get to know them and understand them and feel them and start to feed them and take care of them, they'll take care of you.
Our grandparents have wanted nothing more than for us to walk long on this earth, heeding the teachings of our ancestors who were first to come to this land, who love it, and to see all life as sacred relatives, so that we can maintain the future.
The only way to correct our direction that we're going in now is, of course, to change the values that have been driving the earth. Instead of the values of commerce and money, then we have to think of the values of the natural world and of equity for all life. Water is not adjudicated fairly. Land is not. That has caused the second problem, which is the climate change and the misuse of the natural world elements and the devastation industry has brought to the earth itself.
What I've witnessed in my short 60 years on this planet is acceleration. A lot of change from the way as a child that I remember growing up living off the land to a society of convenience. There's a huge disconnect now. People are no longer connected to the land.
The current state of Mother Earth is exactly the description of the Hopi prophecies. As Philip Deere would say, we've arrived in the direction we've been headed. Mother Earth has had to work to rebalance herself. The impacts of the human beings have made it such that all of her systems have been invaded by a consciousness that isn't ours as Native people.
In this world of capitalism now, what has value? When man takes an action without thinking of that action, that a tree has only value when it's cut down, milled up, and logged off. It has no value standing. Native cultures and native thinking and native philosophy has no value because there's no way to sell it.
There's always collateral, and Indigenous people are always a collateral in the extractive capitalist machine. So anywhere you see this fracking and this extreme degradation going on to the land, you're going to see that manifesting in the state of the people.
We've tripled the population in a lifetime, my lifetime. We've poisoned the water, we've polluted life. There was an old chief from the West Coast in the Northwest, and he said, there'll be a day when we cease to live and begin to survive. And he said, our brother will suffocate in his own waste.
What we're facing at the present day, what's coming in our future, it's been prophesized. And it's all as a result of what has been taken away from our mother, the earth.
The older people already knew that something like this was bound to happen. We connected it to a lot of our teachings that have been passed down. It relates back to when our people lived in the 3 previous worlds. Each world was said to have been destroyed by our disconnect. Our elders always foretold it's bound to happen again, but we have a chance to reverse it. This is the 4th time, and this is our last chance.
A lot of weird things are happening on the earth with the birds and animals and with the different kinds of rains and the winds, the elements and all the things that are happening around me. All these things are teachers to me. And when COVID was heard on the radio for the first time by me, I said to myself, that's in our prophecies also.
I got COVID early in the year. Didn't know what it was. I rarely caught a cold, and this hit me very hard. I had taken every precaution, and still I got it. I went to our nearest hospital, which is in Ukiah, and I was sent home because they had a shortage of ventilators. I was sent home to die.
I'm still losing family members because of the long-term effects of the sickness on people and the mental health effects. I can't feel sorry for myself because every family, every child, every grandchild lost a family member, lost somebody who was close to them. One of my friends made these Christmas can jar things. She had a box of them and she said, I made these for all my friends who lost their moms. Could you imagine? She had a box of 13 of us lost our moms. The pandemic changed my life.
The comorbidity for Native peoples have been outrageous, and it should point to the fact that health care has been historically very bad for Native peoples.
My mom, she was taken by COVID, and she was a nurse for the majority of her life, all the way up until she left us. Her health was already high risk. If she didn't have to go into a crowded dialysis unit, she'd still be here today.
This pandemic has struck us in many ways. We've lost many of our speakers, and this is globally. The state of our native languages is dire. An elder is a library of knowledge. Wait, Pashol, we need to take care of them, because when they leave us, it's like that library burning down.
COVID is erasing our history and erasing our future. We've lost so many Indigenous elders, youth. That is our web, that is our bloodline.
It's changed the whole world because it was the breath that was taken away. It should be the wake-up call with the death of our people.
There'll be more coming. This is just the first one. And as you can see, it's mutating, but there's more coming. More coming, and who knows what form that'll be. But you can certainly expect it to be attacking the human body and life as we see it.
For a long time, we've seen and known that this time of prophecy has been unfolding and that we're at that moment, at that intersection of thought and being and action. And I think the pandemic is an expression of that. But it's also taken form in terms of climate change. It's also taken form in terms of Holocaust, Indigenous peoples' Holocaust that goes on not only against humans, but against species. So I think that's where we are. And from what I've learned and been taught, that point of nexus offers an opportunity to make good decisions. And some people are making some really good decisions. And then many people aren't. Maybe the majority of people aren't.
We do our part to maintain the sanctity of our first mother, the earth. The way that we help to keep this earth alive and this world functioning and balanced the way it was created. We were given our ceremonies, whereby we renew ourselves as tzitzis, the people with like hearts.
We do a lot of dancing, we do a lot of singing, and we do a lot of ceremonies. Those are Thanksgiving ceremonies. They're ceremonies to be thankful for what is here. They instruct our people, they instruct our children, they remind us of the powers and authority of nature itself.
Our ontology holds that everything is fundamentally spiritual in nature. We were blessed with sacred teachings from Creator. He sent all the tribes, holy people, deities, and working with the spirits and Creator, they made this physical world around us out of the spiritual world. When we go back and look at those teachings, they give us direction. Spiritually, we know everything's connected.
The more that we speak up for the salmon and for all creatures, the butterflies, whatever it is, we can't go wrong. One of our great leaders, he said, Tuhulhutu, the earth is my body, I come from this land. And he talked about how the bones of Mother Earth and everything were a part of him. And when we die, we go back to our mother.
We have the ability to create life, and it's here. These are the tools that Creator gave us. Continuing to put your hands in the ground and continuing to put the seed in the ground. You're maintaining that connection not only to your mother, but also to your ancestors. That's one way that we need to restore balance.
We have critical decisions to make about the climate crisis, about each other, about the love we're going to show each other and all of our relatives. So in our language, when we talk about relatives, we mean marine animals. We're talking about the four-legged. We're talking about the birds in the sky. We're talking about the snakes. We're talking about the bugs. All of those relatives have a right to be here. It's not just us. It's not just us.
In our way, we all say mitaki, we all say all things are related. We're about a spiritual connection with Mother Earth. Our way of life is about health and well-being, taking care of your ancestors, our medicine, our food, and our health. Understanding that life is so important. Even building our homes, like the teepee, our camp, they used to have spiritual songs to lay the grass down after the camp was taken down. The grass stands back up. Those ceremonies were never done for over 100 years. The elders said that we have to pray every month, every year. There's something that has to be done, either going after medicine or doing some kind of ceremony. There's a lot of teachings, the laws keep that circle, the 4 seasons going.
The answer's in the people, and the revival of our language, revival of our canoe making, our basketry, the revival of values that we have, our different ways of life. We have songs, and we have stories that can put things back in place. It's beautiful, it's powerful. They're like antennas. That story is a connection. That feather is a connection. That song is a connection. But it's here. You are the main one.
The songs, they contain lessons, and they also contain pieces of information that you might need, a key or an experience. For example, growing up, seeing a tomo, a canoe, on the water, or seeing our relatives all gathered together on the ocean or at a sacred place or a gathering place, and it's hard to describe except maybe in a song. And if you're there, you get to feel the song and you have an understanding of the place where it comes from, or maybe you know the family that sang the song.
He told them, I made this earth, and this earth is a female. This earth is your mother, the earth. She is the mother to the animals and to the humans and to the vegetations and to everything that lives. She is the mother to all of you. If we don't do our ceremonies and acknowledge our Mother Earth and sing for her and dance for her, then she too will diminish all the things she gives us to live. Even the waters and the rivers will not be there to quench our thirst.
Walk in beauty is what they say in Navajo. What does it mean to walk in beauty? You have to watch where you step. You have to watch how you step. And we have to understand that we are a part of the environment. We are the environment.
The elders say that nothing is created outside until it's created inside first. And if we want peace, we have to become peace. If we want love, we have to become love. The elders say that the most unselfish thing that you can do is to heal yourself.
What do you leave? What do you leave for the future? Make your decisions upon the generations coming. Those many generations looking up from the earth layer upon layer, each waiting their time.
There may be buildings everywhere, but I recognize this is the mother. And there may be buildings on top, but I recognize that the land is sacred.
There's no other earth. This is home. So as a human race, we have to say that we have to protect our mother. And we have to do it now. It's all our responsibility, indigenous or non-indigenous.
How do we heal the river? How do we bring the water spirit back to life? How do we become native to a land? Re-indigenizing, the exercise of our sovereignty again over major chunks of land. And that sovereignty of self-governance and self-relationship to lands will teach people better to understand where they're living and how to live there.
Consult with your ceremonies and with your old people. So that's part of that consultation they have to work with, is that fire, is that mountain, that river. Those stories and the language and the songs, they have that connections. We bring our medicine together, our feathers, our songs and our stories, then we make spiritual things, and then healing comes.
I've heard it be called love, self-determination, joy, hope for the next generations. We have to give them hope. We have to leave something for them to travel. Everything that's happening, that's revitalizing cultures and communities and thinking and systems and practices and ceremony and relationships, that's all hope.
Nimel Dutton. Love is so critical. Love that transcends generations. Love of everything in our environment, but above all, this earth. A grandmother whom we were all expected to love, just as our grandparents did, to have a reverence for all life, knowing that life transcends us as human beings, and that we as the Khama Wotstanil, the indigenous peoples of this land, were placed here to keep our grandmother, the earth company, but above all, to protect her and to keep her safe.
Oh, winaye, me servo yo yang yo ho yo tane. Me servo yo yang yo ho yo tane. Yahweh aye. Me servo yo yang yo ho yo.
Rishi, hello, my name is Tia Rose Peters, and my people are the Ashui, and it's an honor to be here with all of you. Thank you to the Wiyot people on whose land I stand this morning. Here it's about 7:30 in the morning to share these thoughts with you. Thanks to Steph for the invitation and to Guppy for the introduction and guiding us through our time together. I know it's just a brief amount of time, but it's really good to be with everyone here today. Even if we can't be in person this time, maybe next year. We appreciate having the opportunity to share in this way and share that film. I'd like to begin by recognizing the spirits that are here with us, the ancestors, ancient and everlasting, appreciating their presence with us today, yesterday, and always, as they inform our consciousness, individually and collectively, shaping and guiding our thinking, our doing, our ways of knowing and being, even here on platforms like this, on Zoom, because they're here with us. They're unbounded by time or space or geographical boundaries. They help give us our truths, purpose, resilience, and through their stories and their teachings, our ancestors offer us pathways for healing and well-being. That's what that film hopes to offer to each of us and to all of you, to center Indigenous consciousness as a context and as a remedy for healthier perspectives and lifeways at this really urgent time, when throughout the world, birds are dropping from burning skies. Places that were once abundant and fertile are becoming dry and barren, or they're sinking into oblivion, into the ocean. Life systems that have worked for a millennia, social, cultural, spiritual, and natural, human and non-human life systems, are under tremendous stress. There is social upheaval that mirrors the ecological implosions that are accelerating around the world. The 7th Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples was birthed into existence in 1977. At a time of social transformation around the world, born from the oldest and biggest global movement for good, the Indigenous Peoples Movement. We are 500 million people strong and counting. We're part of that movement, an anchoring organization, and that movement is now 530 years old of ongoing resistance, ongoing resilience, of remembering, of renewal, of recovery, of decolonization, of self-determination, and re-indigenization. For us, re-indigenization is the dynamic process of recovering traditional relationships to land, community, culture, and spirit for self-determination, for collective liberation, and to restore balance for all life, for the future, for our past, for us today. The Seventh Generation Fund for Indigenous Peoples manifests our work by mobilizing energy through grants, advocacy, movement building, leadership, and mentoring, and to amplify an Indigenous-centered message of hope, of responsibility and renewal through films like what we just shared. We direct that interconnected energy to equip Indigenous peoples on the ground, who are the first impacted and who are the first responders to genocide, to aquacide, ecocide, femicide, and the climate chaos we find ourselves in. We equip them with knowledge and capacity and tools, not because we're the experts, because we know that they are. And they build matrices for actualization and for positive actions on their own terms, in their own communities, in their own nations, on their own homelands, and in alignment with their ways of knowledge and language and culture. We believe that centering direct support to Indigenous people strategies on the ground by being rooted to our core purpose of being a good ancestor is not only a social justice mandate, but a cultural and spiritual mandate for the survival of all of our future generations, of all life. Not just Indigenous peoples, but for all of us. Because fundamental to being a good ancestor is a rejection of white oppression, of white elitist colonial patriarchy as an assumed power model, and a rejection of it as a framework for thinking or being or of action for positive steps forward. Indigeneity for us is the pathway forward. Our thoughts and deeds have power and contribute to the whole of our existence. For all of us, we know that what we do and say, where and how we focus our energy and our time and our resources, where we put those resources, where we put our energy, has impacts that ripple in all directions of nonlinear time and space. We know we must act out of love, respect, and protection for ourselves, for each other, and for the generations, as Chris talked about, just as our ancestors did for us. And to root those actions from a seed that is life-affirming and not grown from the stems of oppression. I'd like to share some words Chris and I first spoke about when we were talking about being a good ancestor. In the early 2001, over 22 years ago, we said, we are all descendants, the cumulative result of generations of thoughts and deeds, dreams, hopes, and prayers, of love and blood memories. Our purpose is to honor those who came before us and to be a good ancestor and to make good decisions for those who follow because they deserve our best. I thank you for this opportunity to share the film and to offer some thoughts and words with you about remembering and resilience, about hope and love, and about the Seventh Generation Fund for Indigenous peoples. Chris, did you have anything you'd like to close with?
No, I think you've said enough. I mean, it was certainly a good presentation, and I hope people enjoyed the movie. You know, we were deprived of hearing it online, but we've seen it many times, and we know it's great. And it was a method of bringing to the audience a group of Indigenous peoples throughout the United States that had similar message of climate change. Climate change is something that is affecting all of us and will only get worse if we don't do something immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. Thank you for this opportunity.